Greetings, this is Wild Outdoor Living and this is my new Trek Stache. So I used to have two proper mountain bikes. I had a Trek Superfly and Cannondale Jekyll, so I had a long travel mountain bike and then a cross country bike. And with my type of riding and the exploring that I do, those two bikes were a little bit too far on either extreme. One was a full-on cross country racer and the other one was a bit too oriented towards downhill. And they were both amazing bikes, but I kind of wanted to have a little bit less bikes and kind of have something in the middle and also add some capabilities that I didn't have with either bike before. So I went for the Trek Stache. It's a 29 plus hardtail that can be used for a variety of things. So it's got a 120 fork on the front and about a 68-degree head tube angle. So it's not super slack, but it's slack enough to be semi-aggressive. It's a good trail bike geometry. And then the plus tires give it extra traction and a little bit extra comfort. So a lot of the backcountry trails that I end up on, I don't really need more suspension. I just need more give in the tire. I need more traction and a little bit more comfort. So after a long time deliberating, I finally decided to go towards this. So I have the 920 for all of my bike touring and commuting purposes, and then this is going to be my proper fun mountain bike. There is some bike packing that I would like to do on this. It's a little bit harder than what the 920 is really would be comfortable with. So next October I would like to ride the Arizona Trail. I've hiked several sections of it as I used to live there, and it's really loose. It's not very well developed, and so a plus bike with suspension is going to be ideal for that. And so I'm planning to ride this bike on that trip. So I've had the bike about a week and it's been snowing, and so later on I'll do a better review of how I feel about the trail characteristics and that sort of thing. But for now we're going to do an overview of the entire bike and kind of my first impressions. So starting up front, we have a Manitube Magnum fork. It's a 34 millimeter stanchion with 120 millimeters of travel. If you guys aren't familiar with these Manitubes, of course, they're classic for having that reverse bridge there, and overall it seems to be a pretty smooth fork. It has this unique through axle design that essentially just lets you turn it a half a turn and pull the axle straight out. You don't have to completely unthread it, so it's pretty slick. I don't know if it's totally necessary, but it's a nice feature and it's worth noting. A lot of people have trouble with it when they first use it, but once you learn how to use it properly, it's actually pretty cool. The bike has SRAM level TL brakes, so this is very similar to the Guide. This is SRAM's new cross-country trail line, and then the Guide is more their harder core trail as well as enduro and downhill brake. So it's just a little bit lighter. Overall I really like it. I've been a Shimano guy for years, but it has a really good modulation, and so far in the first week anyways I haven't had any trouble with it, so we'll see how that continues. It has a 750 millimeter Bontrager handlebar, a fairly short stem, but I mean, some guys are going to want it shorter and some will want maybe a little longer, but for this type of bike I think it's pretty appropriate. The Stache only comes with a 1x system, so on the 5 you get a 1x10, but once you step up to the 7, which is what this bike is, you get a 1x11. So this is a 30 tooth in the front and then a 1042 in the rear, so it actually should climb pretty well. This bike is about $400 more than the Stache 5, which is the entry level. The biggest difference is the color. The fork is a 32 millimeter instead of a 34, and then it's a 1x10. So for me that was a pretty big deal. Just moving forward, I could probably get away with the 5 and be fine, but I love this color, and those other things definitely made it worthwhile. The rear derailleur is a SRAM GX series Type 2. So it's very similar to the X7 that I have on my 920. It has the clutch. Otherwise it's just an 11 speed. Nothing super fancy, but it shifts super crisp and works fine. The wheels are probably the bigger deal. They're Sunringle Duroc 50s. So they're some of the widest plus tire wheels you can find. They come tubeless ready. The tires are also tubeless ready, Bontrager Chupacabras that Bontrager built almost specifically for this bike. and they're super easy to set up. Actually, in the box they come with valves and they're already taped. So the only thing you have to do when you buy the bike new is put sealant in it, which is awesome. So kudos to Sunringle. The tires are actually really easy to put on, and then they set up tubeless with almost no effort. The tires themselves they have pretty wide space knobs, and the traction is fantastic. The rolling is also great. I honestly don't notice a speed difference on the road between this and my Trek Superfly, which is a regular hardtail 29er. And so that's great. You get more traction, a more stable ride, but you're really not giving up much speed. One thing to note is this bridge here on the top tube, between the top tube and the seat tube. You don't see this in a lot of pictures. I was actually kind of surprised when it showed up like this, but on the larger sizes they have this bridge that just kind of gives it a little bit better rigidity, and I think that makes the bike look just that little bit better. The paint is a matte finish. It's very similar to the 920 in texture and sheen, but it is a bright green, as you can see. Some people are going to hate this color, other people are going to love it. I personally love this color. Every time I go into Project One on Trek's website and design a bike for fun, my bikes always end up being this color. So when I saw Trek put it on a stock bike in a configuration that I was actually already looking at, I got pretty excited. So out on the snow, it has a ton of traction. It's not a snow bike, but it does help on the winter commutes just to feel that little bit safer. It's really stable out on the trails that I've had it. It's really comfortable. A lot of the snow trails that are torn up by people walking normally would be a lot more jarring on some of my other bikes, but on this it's fairly smooth. So super excited. Definitely follow us on Facebook and Instagram for pictures and updates as I go along. If you have any questions, please leave them below and feel free to subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks. Catch you later.